government agencies, municipalities, and our students here at UMD. Municipalities, the government agencies, the nonprofits get to scope out their own project that the students then undertake. Some landscape architecture and business and public policy. And who else in here am I missing?
Information.
Information. Environmental science, right? Like, so it's pretty cool. We have access to all of campus. And so if you're somebody who's kind of here and you've never worked with the PALS project before as either a faculty member or a community member, please contact us and find out more. I want to really quickly, because some of you don't know her, introduce our director of the PALS program, Michelle Kokolas. She made this happen. She made the matches between faculty, students, and community happen. She joined us this fall. Some of you may know her from her work with the Environmental Finance Center as a program manager, but she's happily giving us some of her time to work on PALS and is doing an amazing job. So I won't say too much because I'm not really the star of the show here. We've got a lot going on, and I do encourage you to check out the posters in this room and in the room across the way. We'll also have lunch after the remarks, so I'm standing between you and lunch, which is always dangerous. But I'm really excited to go introduce my dean, Don Jordan, who will open us up.
It is my pleasure to celebrate PALS, the Partnership for Action, Learning, and Sustainability. I'm not sure if I got that right. It's taken me the 5 years that I've been here to dismantle the acronym. But the concept is simple. A relationship between community and university for the betterment of place. And we do that in each and every project that we take on. It was my pleasure this year to partner with Prince George's County on a zoning project. My students and I took a look at the old zoning code and the new zoning code and tried to figure out why land developers might choose one regulation over the other. That seems like a really simple task, and yet it became very complicated and taught us a lot about regulation and what inspires people to do good work. This is the 12th anniversary of the PALS program, and we're so happy to be in partnership with the National Center for Smart Growth and under the leadership of Dr. Kate Howell. It is a very special place and a very special time for us, in part because of Congressman Ivey and his commitment not only to the university but to our program. His recent advocacy has led to $1 million in federal funding to support community-focused research by the National Center for Smart Growth and the Environmental Finance Center in partnership to expand affordable housing, bolster small businesses, and strengthen protections against flooding in communities along the Purple Line in Prince George's County, of which you all know much about. You'll see the work next year at the PALS Showcase, so this is my invitation to you to come on back. And now I'm thrilled to introduce you to our partner, Congressman Glenn Ivey.
Thank you, Dean and Professor. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to say what an honor it is to be here and the joy it brings me to have a chance to provide support for the resources that you need to continue programs like this. It's relatively new to me. I had heard about it and read about it, but when I came in earlier, I had a chance to look at some of the projects and the results of the work that had been done. And I was like, hey, can I get that report? Because a lot of the things that you're doing are things that we need right now that we could use. I'm at the congressional level, so there's a federal piece. My wife, Jolene Ivey's on the county council, so the zoning piece in particular was immediate interest to her. By the way, she got her master's degree here at the University of Maryland. And then, yeah, go Terps. More Terps to go for, too. For my son, Julian, is in the House of Delegates, and he's a Terp too, so big hand for the Terps. Thanks for educating my family at such an affordable price. So we definitely appreciate it. But look, it's great to be here. It's sort of the town and gown university and community aspect of this is really great. We need to make sure we maximize those benefits. But this is a regional impact too for what we do here. I think it's been really phenomenal to watch the the explosive growth of what's going on here at the university. The transformation of Route 1 has been impressive. The change here on River Road is great. We were just across the street, is that 2 weeks ago? Breaking ground for the quantum campus piece with Arles coming. And that's a multi-billion-dollar industry that really got a lot of its genesis here out of the University of Maryland. And that's just a couple of the things that we've been working with you all on to get this done. But it's an honor for me to have the University of Maryland in my congressional district. I'm very proud of the fact that we can get support and benefits, bring them back to the county, bring them back to the university so you can continue to do this work. But more importantly, the work that's being done here, the scholarship, the analysis, the insight is really transforming this region, and I think we're going to be a model for the country if we keep continuing to build it out this way. Obviously, there's a lot of fantastic benefits that are going to come from the Purple Line, especially for the university. You guys have like 4 or 5 stops right on campus, right? And we've got one right around the corner here, so I think that's going to be great for economic development. It'll be great for the ability for students and other residents to spread out instead of having to be compact so much along the Route 1 corridor. It'll be great for the affordable housing piece, which is part of this as well. I know there's flooding and other types of environmental impacts we want to mitigate that could come from the Purple Line of the expansion. And there have been a lot of challenges for residents and commercial businesses along the route, not just here in the campus area, but across the area of Prince George's County. And I know the governor rolled out some funds up in Montgomery County. We've got some here as well. But the key is to make sure that we're all working together. We've all got a common vision of how to make this thing work. And when we work together like this, here's the result of what can happen. So thanks so much, keep up the great work, and I look forward to spending this around and showing you all the real check, well, not a real check, what the check looks like with the real numbers. So thanks so much, and congratulations.
Hi, I'm Amelia Chisholm. I'm with the Historic Preservation Section for the Prince George's County Planning Department, and we've sponsored a PALS project this semester looking at the built environment, community health, and the Asian American context in Prince George's County. The goal of this project is to start to build out a scope of work study from the city of Beltsville looking at the Korean population in Beltsville. And we've had a great group of kids from the public health department looking at the bigger picture across northern Prince George's County.
Thank you. So as Amelia mentioned, we took this project through a public health lens, and we focused on religion, health, language, and built environment, and we were able to look at the Asian American community in PG County.
And we conducted interviews and we created surveys to send out to the community members, and we found that we found out why they moved here, and some of it was for education purposes, and we found that there were some challenges with communicating with the community members, such as language barriers, and we suggest that in the future there should be interpreters to help with conducting interviews to find out more information about the community.
Good afternoon. My name is Chad Williams, and I'm a master planner with the Countywide Planning Division of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Prince George's County Planning Department. With me is Menika Atre, a student of the University of Maryland's Planning and Preservation Program. And we've been working, particularly Menika, on a project that's analyzing outcomes of the new zoning ordinance and comparing with outcomes of the prior zoning ordinance to really see what motivates developers, land use attorneys, residents, and others who are interested in the development process in making decisions on which zoning ordinance to use, which aspects might work better for their project and their evaluation. And we want to get a better understanding of how those motivating factors drive development in Prince George's County, and maybe even offer us some insights as to revisions we can make to the new or current zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations to provide even more of an incentive for developers to use that. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn to Menika for just a little bit of an overview of how the class did their work.
Thanks, Chad. My classmates and I selected 3 development applications for properties to evaluate, and some of the properties chose the old code, some of the properties chose the new code, and as Chad explained, our goal was to sort of parse out why a property might have chosen the code that they did. We looked at the development applications and materials available through DARTS. That was for the classmates that I talked to and that I worked with on this. That's what they and I mostly selected. We found that the new code was more user-friendly, more straightforward. However, it did remove a lot of the flexibility enabled by special exceptions that was enabled under the old code, likely because the old code had been around for a while and there were things baked into it, and the code had enough time to settle, if you will. And the new code it's new. It's still taking time to get. It's still taking time for developers to get used to. Also, during the transitional period from 2022 through 2025, we found that the applications that were submitted on the earlier end of the transitional period were more likely to choose the old code, whereas the applications that submitted on the later end of that transition period were more likely to choose the new code. And what that said to us is that these applications have been in the works for a while, maybe even years. And so if someone has already assembled all those application materials, they're not just going to pivot to the new code if it's already been under the works in the old code. And so I think that does say something about developer behavior and how they go about assembling applications to develop in Prince George's County. It does also say something about the regulatory incentives enabled under the new code. We did find that the new code enables more density, particularly in building townhouses, and less parking is required, which also both of which cut costs for developers. And then in many cases, the added density does have advantages for the people who will be living in those properties. Those are some of the main trends that we found, that my classmates and I found across these properties and in doing this project. It's been a real privilege to work with Prince George's County and get a sense of the zoning ordinance. Most students, I feel like, don't have the opportunity to parse a zoning ordinance or two zoning ordinances in this case. And so that does, I think, better equip us to enter the world as planners and bring this to our practice.
Hi, I'm Emily Lutz. I'm a planner with the Community Planning Division, and we are here today because of a PALS project that helps implement one of the suggestions in the draft Port Town Sector Plan. That plan looks to connect the 4 different communities of Port Towns, which is Edmonston, Colmar Manor, Cottage City, and Bladensburg, through their heritage. And one of the ideas was to create a heritage trail, or cultural heritage trail. And Dr. Ellis's class, a landscape architecture class, provided different ideas of how to implement this through bike and ped infrastructure, wayfinding signage, and connecting all of the stories within Port Towns. So the class is made up of Quentin, Prince, David, and Artemis. And we're going to start off with Quentin going over his ideas for Colmar Manor.
I'm Quentin Grother, and I focused on Colmar Manor because of the dueling grounds, which are now a public park. This is my proposed gateway entrance at Bladensburg Road and 38th Avenue, and I'm interested in the dueling grounds because I have a personal connection to the site. If you go there now, you'll notice a historic sign talking about the notable duel of James Barron and Stephen Decatur. And Stephen Decatur is my 7th great-grand-uncle, so I was happy to learn that this is where he lost that fateful duel. And I would love to reveal that narrative more to Colmar Manor and the Port Towns through our wayfinding initiative. So I've designed this series of signs of different hierarchies that could be implemented across the Port Towns with different colors depending on which town you're in. Red for Colmar Manor. And another part of the project was the development of the Dueling Grounds Trail, which is a themed walking and micro-mobility tour that would have informational kiosks and important views to help reveal that story and connect Colmar Manor and Cottage City. So with that, I will hand it over to Prince, who will tell you about what he did.
Hi, my name is Prince Ashina. So, in order to come up with a tour, the route of my memory, we were tasked to come up with a story to tie everything into. So, the Bostwick House, which was owned by Christopher Lowndes, he was known to bring in slaves from Africa, and it's interesting to know that these slaves were coming from my home country back then, which used to be called Gold Coast, now Ghana, and it specifically calls out the capital of the town, which is Accra, and it is right here on the map. So in order to tie the tour, I came up with this furniture. These are made in a way that you could interact with. So this is a historic window where you could look into the glass and see what the past used to be, and then see through it and see what the present is. And these are also other signages that you could easily stand behind and then just take a selfie. This one is more for like someone who is 6 feet, and then the short one is for someone who is probably in a wheelchair or a kid. And then in order to come up with a gateway, we reviewed the sector plan, and it actually has like the idea of a complete street. So that is implemented here. This is what the street, the Anacostia Bridge currently looks like, and this is what we are proposing it to be. It has this bike lane, pedestrian path, pedestrian buffer bolas, and then others. This is actually like the end of what the tour will be like, where people can walk through the bridge from Komamano and then get into this gathering space where they can easily hang out, use the smart bench, charge their phones, and then just interact with the signage over there, and then also look across the river as well. Thank you. David?
Thank you, Prince. My name is David Ramos, and I'm a graduate student in landscape architecture at the University of Maryland. We've all presented different ideas. My idea for this wayfinding and placemaking project for the port towns suggests that the Anacostia River it's not just a barrier, it's why the towns are here, and although it is frequently hidden behind levees, behind buildings, out of sight, that river is the heart of the communities, and it can be a link. So what I've proposed is 3 moves, 3 design choices to create a gateway park and a sign across from the existing Bladensburg Waterfront Park with a large sign that greets people arriving by water that is visible from across the river, to design a trail system that uses existing trails, existing excellent hard surface trail network, in order to connect the 4 towns together around themes of history and culture and environment related to that river. And then thirdly, to provide space for wildlife, to acknowledge that the Anacostia is a place not only for humans and for the stories that come with humans, but for stories of nature, to try interventions like maybe building a chimney swift tower that is habitat for chimney swifts, or to bat houses or nesting boxes for osprey. I'm going to give you over to Artemis, who is the last member of our cohort.
Hello, my name is Artemis Majerski. I'm a second-year Master of Landscape Architecture student at University of Maryland. We had a wonderful experience working with PALS, M-NCPPC, and the town managers of the 4 port towns on their wayfinding and placemaking master plan in order to kind of help them develop a cohesive visual identity. We were tasked with developing a series of wayfinding signage as well as additional streetscape features. So behind me to my right, you can see some of the various different fixtures that we have suggested for them. And I also have some visualizations of where some of these fixtures might be applied. One of the constraints of the port towns currently is the kind of lack of circulation for pedestrians, and the fact that it is segmented by bridges and rivers at various points. So taking the bridges and turning them into an asset, improving imageability by adding these gateway elements, can really help to transform the port towns into a place with a cohesive sense of place. We also worked on developing some walking tours. Mine focused on some of the wonderful sustainability features that are being done in Edmundston. So this was a really rewarding and interesting project. I quite enjoyed working with all of the port town managers, so my thanks to them, as well as M-NCPPC and PALS and all of my cohort as well.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Caroline Boulis, and I'm the faculty member on this project. This is Environmental Science and Policy Program Capstone. So this is the graduating capstone project for these students. And thank you to our client, Prince George's County Planning Department, and to PALS for letting us work on this project.
Hi, my name is Lizzie McConan. I'm a planner too with the Prince George's County Planning Department, and we sponsored this project. So we're working with University of Maryland students on how we can better support family and small farms in Prince George's County. So they worked on looking at challenges and opportunities, looking at educational, regulatory, financial barriers that they face, and they came up with a resource toolkit that we'll use for partners and other farmers to use.
Hi, my name is Brielle Taubenblatt.
Hi, I'm Haley Golcher.
Hi, I'm Isabel Stallnaker.
Hello, my name is Ardo Colade, and I'll be walking us through the objective section. So here we have our 3 objectives. The first one was to complete research on family-owned small farms in PG County, Prince George's County. Here there are the small plots that the farmers are on in the Urban Farm Incubator, which is actually managed by a man called John Berger. And here is all of us visiting the farm incubator. And here is Isaac from Asawana Farms, one of the farmers on the incubator. So our second objective was to identify the challenges that these farmers were facing. So Isaac from Asawana Farms told us that he was facing challenges with labor, and he needs things like tractors, for example, volunteers to help him farm, and other things of that nature as well. So in our toolkit, which is a tool that we made for these farmers to be able to help market themselves, educate others on how to farm, and even give technical assistance. So that was the main gist of our whole project, to make a toolkit to be able to help family-owned small farmers like Isaac from Asawana Farms and all of the other farmers at UFI, which is the Urban Farm Incubator in Prince George's County.
Hello, my name is Asiya Abdullah, and I'll be walking you guys through the methods that we did for this project. So we mostly did background research and interviews. So for the background research, we're very lucky at the University of Maryland to have access to a lot of resources that would usually be behind a paywall. So we used University of Maryland's online library database to conduct a lot of our research. We also utilize a lot of governmental websites. So for example, we looked at some websites on the federal level, as well as at the state level, and then at the county level. We utilize the Prince George's Soil Conservation District's website a lot. And our purpose for doing this is we wanted to identify some of the challenges that family-owned and small-scale farms face in Prince George's County. And we also wanted to identify any currently available resources that they have. And then from there, we also wanted to be able to get basically a baseline level of knowledge of some of the people that we would be interviewing. That way we could, kind of just really speak to their experiences without having to, learn those for the first time while we were talking to them. And through our interviews, we were able to gather a lot of knowledge that we weren't able to find in our background research. And it also helped us a lot with kind of building our resource toolkit as well, because it really helped us kind of know what format or what medium would be best for the farmers.
My name is Max. I'll be telling you about the results. So what we found is that there is economic challenges that farmers face, and these include lack of transparency about accessing grants and cuts to USDA grants, like local cooperation with like food pantries and schools, and also just high cost of land and high cost of water and infrastructure. And then some social challenges that farmers face is social media marketing and not having consistent volunteers. And then other challenges they face is like environmental, like warmer and drier summers are making the work more difficult in the summer. And just adding extra demand for waking up earlier, and two of our findings, like recommendations that we have, is to provide social media marketing for farmers through partnerships with schools, and also to centralize information on grants and other opportunities online.